we're back. Jeff here. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Anyway, not a lot new came in so far since my last video. Can't have new stuff all the time, right? That's kind of the topic of what I'm going to be done with tonight. To buy or not to buy? That's the question. So I got back into vinyl a little over a year ago. Used to collect it back in the days, 70s and 80s when I was a kid, as I mentioned in previous videos. So when I got a record player, got me a turntable here, and started buying vinyl, I started just buying everything I could. You know, every spare dollar you had here and there, grabbing albums. And then you have to kind of stop and think, do I really need this album? I've heard people, other people in the community out there discussing this. Some people thin out their collection. These are things I'll probably never play again. These are things I don't really need. Obviously there's a time when you bought them. And so my struggle is to be struggling against being the collector versus being the music lover. Sure, you can be both, but you start collecting too much, and this is all my theory in my philosophy. Start collecting too much, you don't have enough time in the day to really enjoy them or listen to them. So you start being more selective and buying things you know you're going to listen to, and it usually gives you more enjoyment out of them. I still have a hard time. I'm more of a completist. I'm more of a collection junkie. So I struggle with that. And so it's always trying to talk myself out of something. Oh, but this looks really cool and I'd like to have it. Am I buying it because it's an impulse buy? I really would like to have it. Or it'd be cool to have. Or was it on my list of things that I just had to have? So I know it's a struggle and it's frustrating. But still there's those times, especially if the price is right. You go to like a thrift store or something where you're getting stuff for, you know, $1 or less, then I look at it as kind of like rescuing records that, you know, I hopefully will enjoy. And if not, I can always pass them on to somebody. If they're in good condition, I'll buy them, even though it may not be something I needed. So I have a little more liberty there when it comes to that. When you go out and buy things that are more expensive, you know, used vinyl that's, you know, upwards to $10, then I start having to really question myself. Case in point, I think it was last week I went to a store and I picked up an album, and just a lot of times I'll look at an album, if it's something I don't know, I have different things I look at. The cover, does it look like something that'd be rocky or cool? Flip it over, does the band look like they have a good look, that they would be something I would probably enjoy? Things along that line, criteria to buy. And so I found one last week, and it was one of those stores where it was like $7. So it's kind of like, do I want to take a chance on something I may not like? I quickly put them up on Spotify and was glad to find that they were on there, because then I had to wait to listen to them rather than go to YouTube and, you know, play videos over my cell phone data. But and I listened to them, and even though they had a cool look and they had a cool cover, I listened to them and they were definitely way too AOR. You know, a lot of keyboard. They didn't match. I guess they sort of matched the way they looked, but not in favor of where I wanted to go. But anyway, so other times where I've had to deal with it and, you know, take a chance or not on bands you don't know, I wanted to show a couple of those. So here is Spanos, I don't know. He's got the look, he's got the long hair, a little kind of polished up. Trying to look a little too cool. Cigarette kind of kills it for me. It's silly looking. Yeah, you know, Bon Jovi-ish. The year was right. I think this was 1984. Had no idea who this was. 83, 84. But they had this, and I looked at it. I said, well, that looks, you know, looks interesting, so let me take a look at it. But they also had a second one, and this one, he's actually under the name Danny Spanos, Passion in the Dark. But here's some of the things I was looking at that caused me to think twice about this and go ahead and buy it without actually looking it up on Spotify. First thing that caught my eye, aside from the way he looks, is I noticed it's on Pasha Records. Well, it's part of okay, it's in working with Pasha Records. I guess it's on Epic. So that struck a thing with me, because the only other band that I know of on Pasha Records is Quiet Riot. That's the only real label, the only real band that I ever heard of on Pasha Records So it caused me to take a look here. I'm like, huh. Then I just happened to look down a little further and looked at the people who play on the album, and it says, that drums on one of the songs is by Frankie Banali. And then down here it says Frankie Banali, courtesy of Pasha Records. Well, Frankie Banali is a drummer for Quiet Riot, so he also played on the Wasp album or two. So I'm like, okay, you got a guy who looks okay, and Frankie Banali played drums on one of the songs. I took a chance. He played on the other one too. Also, Rick Derringer plays a song on here. So, it had a couple people that made it worth taking a chance. And it was only a couple dollars. It was in good condition. I bought it. Turns out pretty good. It's not too AOR like I don't like. He's got kind of a gritty voice, and so he's got like a kind of a rough and tough image type sound, but still commercial enough to enjoy. So I took a chance, and that one paid off. Same place, I got another one. Never heard of the band, Citizen Kane. It says Hot Blooded Rocker, so obviously, hey, it's a rocker. Pulled it out, took a look at it, didn't know the label. The band has a very 70s rock vibe to them. There's no date on here anywhere on the record. When I was in the store, I couldn't find anything. Wasn't sure if this was the 70s or whatever. I think it was an 80s album when I looked it up later, but there's nothing on here for that. It's only got 4 songs. I went ahead and took a chance. The one song, Hot Blooded Rocker, I got home before I listened to this, and I pulled it up on YouTube, and there is a video for it. I said, it's not that bad. I listened to the rest of the album. The other 3 songs are nothing like that, and they're a lot weaker. So Hot Blooded Rocker was a good song, but that doesn't make for a good album, even though there's only 4 songs. So this was kind of a letdown. But, I took a chance. Wasn't too bad. Now, you all have to excuse me if you all don't get on my case. Hey, you didn't know who that band was? No, I'm sorry. I didn't know who this band was. Found this one in the dollar bin, basically, or $1 or $2. Band called UK. Go ahead. Gasp if you know who they are. I picked it up, flipped it over to see who was on it, and that's when I decided I had to buy it. It's got John Wetton, and it's got Terry Bozzio. Now, he's a really good drummer. He later went on after this to form Missing Persons, but he's been in a lot of other rock outfits since then. And John Wetton, of course, went on to be in Asia and bands along that line. I kind of looked up the band. It turns out they're very, very popular. This wasn't, and they're kind of a prog rock, but this wasn't a band that I was tuned in with back in the day. Didn't know who they were, didn't have a clue. But then I read on basically how that people got really mad at John Wetton because this is the kind of stuff he did. I picked up 2 by them. This is a live album, same lineup. Oh, it's got Terry Bozzio. People, I guess, this is the stuff that he was doing. It was kind of a, prog type stuff. And then he went and joined Asia, which was a very pop-oriented band. So I was reading about that, and I said, okay, so people kind of liked that style and didn't like the way he went with Asia. So turned out those were pretty good. Those were worth the buy. There was another one that they have out. I think it was a little earlier. Different drummer, not Terry Bozzio. I can't believe. I think it's a guy that eventually played in like Black Sabbath or something. He's one of those guys back in the 70s who was, common over in the UK. I've seen the album a couple times, but it's one that usually tends to want to go for $7 to $10, and so it's not high on my list. But I'd like to check it out because it looks like it might be pretty good. It's earlier than that. Another band I had no idea who this was. Sorry. Cover looked cool. Band looked cool. Band named Bronze. Taken by Storm. A little more commercial than I would typically have bought. It was It was in the time frame 1984, 3, 4. 84. Island Records. The band had that, typical. Anything that looks kind of like that usually catches my attention. I noticed the inner sleeve has Motorhead all over it and some other bands on this other side, like Uriah Heep and stuff. So everything kind of screamed, take a chance. I guess I could have looked these guys up on Spotify first and listened to them, but went ahead and took a chance, bought it, brought it home, and liked it. This ended up being a good album. It was worth taking the chance. Cozy Powell. I knew he did a lot of solo stuff. I'm familiar with his work with Michael Schenker, Rainbow, all the major cool bands. He was in Whitesnake. He's been one of those drummers. I like the way he looked back in the day. He's one of those drummers that I always just, I like the way his kit looked. I'm a drummer, so I like the way his kit looked. I like the way he looked. I like the bands he played in. So I knew he had other albums, but had never really checked any of them out. I saw this one, and I thought, well, I've never even seen this one before. I've seen the other ones that he's had. So it was an instant buy. It's a little lighter and at times almost jazzier than I was expecting, but it's Cozy Powell. So I bought it, and I'm glad to have it. I took a chance. Now, those were in the bins that were somewhat a little more expensive. These were a no-brainer as far as price, because these were definitely at a thrift store, and they were, like $1 or less. But, and again, sorry if you all know who these are and I don't. I saw this album, Philip Upchurch. No clue who he is. Cool-looking guy with the guitar. Kind of a Jimi Hendrix feel. 1972, I thought, well, I like the year, that's cool. It's a double vinyl, it's a gatefold. Cool looking guy. Albums, the cover, aside from having a notch out of the top, the cover is no ring wear. It just almost looked like a new album, and the vinyl looked brand new. And I'm like, you can't go wrong. I have to buy it. And then I noticed, well, let me see what kind of stuff can I tell from this. Fire and Rain by James Taylor. Okay, so we did a cover tune. Oh, look, Sweet Chariot, a traditional arrangement. Swing low, sweet chariot. You've Got a Friend by Carole King. So, he does, and then there's a blues song. So, okay, he does some cover tunes. So what else can I find out? Then I started looking at all the musicians on here, and I noticed no vocalist. So, at first I might have thought, it's a screeching bluesy guitar thing, but then I started thinking jazz. And again, I like jazz. Didn't know who he was. The price was right. I grabbed it. Kept flipping, found another one. Philip Upchurch, another one. Same guy, same label. 1 year later, 1973. Album in great shape, aside from the notch. The vinyl was in great shape. I grabbed them, brought them home. They are jazz. Beautiful arrangements of those, jazz guitar based. These were a great find, and I later looked him up, found out he's very popular, still around, has done tons of albums. And these are some of his early ones. Sadly, these are not on Spotify, so I couldn't have checked them out if I wanted, but I'm glad I got them because I wouldn't have been able to find them on Spotify to listen to anyway. Same bin, Chick Corea, not one, not two, but three. Now, I was familiar with Chick Corea, jazz, piano player. I will say, though, that I'm more like and own the Chick Corea electric band stuff. I'm a big Dave Weckl fan, who's a drummer for Chick Corea's electric band. I've seen him in concert with the Buddy Rich tribute band. One of my favorite drummers in the jazz field. And so I really was more of that. I knew these were going to be piano based, a little bit lighter. And I didn't know a lot about his earlier work. I never had bought any of the earlier. No, I take that back. I do have on CD the Light as a Feather. So I kind of knew what I was getting into. But these earlier ones, I wasn't real sure about. This one, I'm sorry, I had it in backwards because I had taken it out to look at it. That's the cover of this one. I flipped it over and I said, well, there's no way I'm not taking this home. It has Stanley Clarke on bass. Great bass player. It's got Al Di Meola on guitar. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like the who's who of jazz. So this was a no-brainer. Price is right. The other two had to go with it. To me, it was a set. There's three. They're in, probably very good condition. A little bit of surface noise. It doesn't bother me. These are classics. And so I knew that I had to have these. So this was sort of like not taking a chance. Because I wasn't familiar with them, but I knew that I was going to enjoy them. Anyway, so that's about all that I've taken a chance with. And again, it's one of those things, personal struggles of what do I need versus what do I want, or not even what I want, but hey, should I just take a chance on this? Should I fill up my collection with a bunch of stuff that I'll probably never listen to, or am I going to start buying that kind of stuff and only buy the stuff that I know is going to get heavy rotation? Probably already got more records in then I could do heavy rotation. I mean, obviously, not that many. I know some of you guys out there have thousands of records, hundreds upon hundreds, up to thousands, just walls and walls. And being a collector, that's the mentality of a collector. I'm not sure at this point in my life. I have too many CDs. And like I mentioned before, this isn't even half of my CDs. This is only the Christian rock and metal and some of the prog stuff over there. Out in my music room, I called it in the shed way back in the day, but my shed is a music room. I have drums out there and everything. And in the music room, I've got CDs in shelves all the way around the building. I'm going to eventually bring them in the house so I can have them here to do videos. Anyway, so my struggle is to get out of that collector mentality and be more reasonable with my purchases. And it's hard, and I fail every week. That's the way it is. This just came in to day before yesterday. Haven't even listened to it yet. I don't need to because I played this sucker to death back in the days. 83, 84. Obsession, Martial Law, their first 4-song EP. This is one of this. This was the only Obsession album I had back in the day. They did release a couple more after that in the later 80s. I do have them now, but I didn't have them back then. I had this. Wore It Out, loved it. 4 songs. Mike Vaciro on vocals. He later went on to do some stuff with Loudness. He's done stuff with all kinds of people. Look him up. I have some stuff with him and Joe Stump, one of those shredding guitar players. He's done a lot. I can't even think of all the things he's done, but anything he touches is worth me buying because he's got just a powerhouse melodic metal vocals, yet with the heaviness. He's not the high, squealy type. And this album, you can tell from the looks of it, you can tell from the picture. This is what you're getting. It is like, leather and spikes, and it's just got the just right amount of aggression and yet still got good vocals and understandable. And like I say, I had this album back in the day and played it to death. Still have it on CD. Saw it on vinyl on a Facebook group. The price was right. I said I want to get that on vinyl again. It's in really good condition. So this is my newest edition, but it wasn't enough to do a whole video on, so I thought I would just throw it in at the last minute. I'm going to leave it with that. Have some plans for some other future videos, but just wanted to kind of throw out there some of the struggles I'm sure we all have, whether to buy or not to buy, whether to collect or just to love, or whether to do both, and how far do you go in that, and how much money can you invest. Everybody who has money is going to be different for everybody. If you have money and you can buy records, that's great. If you don't, if you're a little more, constrained with I have a pretty large family and I already have thousands of CDs, so I have to struggle with deciding how much I pay on groceries versus buy records with. So anyway, thanks a lot for watching, and I will be back soon. We have a hurricane coming our way. It's supposed to hit us Thursday. They're evacuating a lot of people. Not sure if we're going to evacuate yet. But anyway, I'm in Virginia on the coast, and they're gearing up for it. Not sure where it's going to hit exactly, but it is heading this way. Went and saw Judas Priest the other night, Saturday night, with Deep Purple. Great concert. Scott Travis, the drummer for Judas Priest, lives a couple blocks from here. He's a local boy here, so he still lives here when he's not on tour with Judas Priest, so it's kind of neat to see him in his home territory, but playing at the big amphitheater. Great show. I posted pictures of him on Facebook and stuff and Instagram, so you can check him out there if you follow me on that. Thanks a lot for watching, though. I'll end it at this point, and I will see you later if everything doesn't get too waterlogged and my house doesn't blow away. Thanks for watching, and good night. Woohoo! Bing!